Chapter 9, Traders, Kings and Pilgrims. How to find out about trade and traders. You read about northern black polished wares in Chapter 8. This fine pottery, especially bowls and plates, were found from several archaeological sites throughout the subcontinent. How do you think it reached these places? Traders may have carried them from places where they were made to sell them at other places. Southern India was famous for gold, spices, especially pepper, and precious stones. Pepper was particularly valued in Roman Empire, so much so that it was known as black gold. So traders carried many of these goods to Rome in ships, across the sea, and by land in caravans. There must have been quite a lot of trade, as many Rome gold coins have been found in South India. A poem about trade. We can find evidence of the trade in Sangam poem. Here is one which describes the goods brought into Puhar, an important port on the east coast. Here are brought swift, prancing horses by sea in ships, bales of black peppers in cart, gems, and gold born in Himalayas, sandalwood born in West Hills, the pearl of the southern sea, and coral from the eastern coast, the east of Ganga, and crops from the Kaveri, foodstuffs from Sri Lanka, pottery from Myanmar, and other rare and rich imports. Traders explored several sea routes. Some of these followed the coast. There were others across the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal, where sailors took advantage of monsoon winds to cross the sea more quickly. So if they wanted to reach the western coast of subcontinent from the East Africa or Arabia, they chose the sail with the southeast monsoon, and sturdy ships had to be built for these long journeys. New kingdoms along the coast. The southern half of the subcontinent is marked by the long coastlines and with hills, plateaus, and river valleys. Among the river valley, that of the Kaveri is the most fertile. Chiefs and the kings who control the river valleys and the coast become rich and powerful. Sangam poems mentioned the Mawenda. This is a Tamil word meaning three chiefs, used for heads of three ruling families, the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas, who became powerful in the southern India around 2,300 years ago. Each of the three chiefs had two centers of the power, one inland and one on the coast. Of these six cities, two were very important: Puhar or Kaveri Pattanam, the port of the Cholas, and Madurai, the capital of Pandyas. The chief did not collect the regular taxes. Instead, they demanded and received gifts from the people. They also went on military expeditions and collected tributes from the neighboring areas. They kept some of the wealth and distributed the rest among their supporters, including members of their families, soldiers, and poets. Many poets whose compositions are found in Sangam collection composed poems in praise of the chiefs, who often rewarded them with precious stones, gold, horses, elephants, chariots, and fine clothes. Around 200 years later, a dynasty known as the Satavahanas became powerful in the Western India. The most important ruler of the Satavahanas was Gautami Putra Sri Shatakarni. We know about him from his inscriptions composed on behalf of his mother, Gautami Balashri. He and other Satavahana rulers were known as the lords of Dakshinapatha, literally the road leading to the south, which was also used as a name for the entire southern region. He sent his army to the eastern and the western and southern coast. The story of the Silk Route, the rich, glossy colors of silk, as well as its smooth texture make it a highly valued fabric in most societies. Making silk is a complicated process. Raw silk has to be extracted from the cocoons of the silkworm, spun into thread, and then woven into cloth. Techniques of making silk was first invented in China around 7,000 years ago. While the methods remained a closely guarded secret for thousands of years, some people from the China who went to the distant lands on the foot, horsebacks, and on camels carried silk with them. The path they followed came to be known as the Silk Route. Sometimes Chinese rulers sent gifts to the silk to gift. Sometimes Chinese rulers sent gifts of silk to the rulers in Iran and West Asia. And from there, the knowledge of the silk spread further west. About 2,000 years ago, wearing silk became the fashion amongst the rulers and the rich people in the room. It was very expensive as it had to be brought all the way from the China, along dangerous roads through the mountains and deserts. People living along the route often demanded payments for allowing the traders to pass through. Look at the map which shows the Silk Route and its branches. Some kings tried to control a large portion of the route. This was because they could benefit from taxes, tributes, and gifts that they brought by the traders traveling along the route. In return, they often protected the traders who passed through their kingdoms from the attacks of the robbers. The best known of the ruler who controlled the Silk Route was Kushanas, who ruled over Central Asia and Northwest India around 2,000 years ago. Their two major centers of the power were Peshawar and Mathura. Taxila was also included in their kingdom. During their rule, a branch of a Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaport at the mouth of the river Indus, from where the silk was shipped westwards to the Roman Empire. The Kushanas were amongst the earliest rulers of the subcontinent to issue gold coins. These were used by the traders along the Silk Route. The spread of Buddhism. The most famous Kushana ruler was Kanishka, who ruled around 1900 years ago. He organized a Buddhist council where the scholars met and discussed important matters. Ashvaghosha, a poet, who composed a biography of the Buddha, the Buddha Charitra, lived in his court. Ashvaghosha and other Buddhist scholars now began writing in Sanskrit. A new form of Buddhism, known as Mahayana Buddhism, now developed. This had two distinct features. Earlier, the Buddha's presence was shown in the sculptures by using certain signs. For instance, his attainment of enlightenment was shown by the sculptures of the people tree. Now statues of Buddha were made. Many of these were made in Mathura, while others made in Taxila. The second change was a belief in Bodhisattvas. These were supposed to be the persons who had attained enlightenment. Once they attained enlightenment, they could live in complete isolation and meditate in peace. However, instead of doing that, they remained in the world to teach and help other people. The worship of the Bodhisattvas became very popular and spread throughout Central Asia, China, and later in Korea and Japan. Buddhism also spread to western and southern India, where dozens of caves were hollowed out of the hill for the monks to live in. Some of these caves were made on order of the kings and the queens, others by the merchants and farmers. These were often located near the passes through the Western Ghats, roads connecting prosperous ports on the coast with cities in the Deccan ran through these passes. The traders probably halted in these cave monasteries during their travel. Buddhism also spread southeastwards to the Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Thailand, and other parts of the Southeast Asia, including Indonesia. The older form of Buddhism, known as Theravada Buddhism, was more popular than in these areas. The quest of pilgrims. As traders journeyed to the distant lands in the caravans and ships, pilgrims often travel with them. Pilgrims are the men and the women who undertake journeys to the holy places in order to offer worship. The best known of these are the Chinese Buddhism pilgrims. Faxian, who came to subcontinent about 1600 years ago, Xuanzang, who came around 1400 years ago, and I Qing, who came about 50 years ago, 50 years after the Xuanzang. They came to visit the places associated with the life of the Buddha, as well as the famous monasteries. Each of these pilgrims left an account of his journey. They wrote of the dangers they encountered on their travels, which often took years of the centuries and monasteries that they visit, and the books they carry back with them. How Faxian returned to China. Faxian began his journey back home from Bengal. He boarded a ship belonging to some merchants. They had barely traveled for 2 days when they were caught in a storm. The merchants began throwing their merchandise overboard so as to lighten the load and save the ship from the sinking. Faxian threw away his meagre personal belongings but clung to his books and statues of Buddha that he collected. Finally, the storm subsided after 13 days. This is how describes the sea. The sea itself is boundless in extent. It is impossible to know east or west, except by observing the sun, moon, or the stars in their motions. If it is dark, rainy weather, the only plan is to steer by the winds. It took him more than 90 days to reach Java, where he halted for 5 months before boarding another merchant ship that took him to China. Xuanzang, who took the land route back to China through the northwest and Central Asia, carried back with him the statues and Buddha made up of gold, silver, and sandalwood, and over 600 manuscripts loaded on the back of the 20 horses. Over 50 manuscripts were lost when the boat on which he was crossing the Indus capsized. He spent the rest of his life in translating the remaining manuscript from Sanskrit into Chinese. Nalanda, a unique center of Buddhist learning. Xuanzang and other pilgrims spent their time studying at Nalanda Bihar, the most famous Buddhist monastery of the period. This is how he describes it. The teachers are men of the highest ability and talent. They follow the teaching of the Buddha in all sincerity. The rules of monastery are strict, and everyone has to follow them. Discussions are held throughout the day, and old and the young mutually help one another. Learned men from different cities come here to settle their doubts. The gatekeeper asks new entrants difficult questions. They are allowed to enter only after they have been able to answer these. 7 to 8 out of every 10 are not able to answer. The beginning of Bhakti. This was also the time when worship of certain deities, which became a central feature of later Hindus, gained in importance. These deities included Shiva, Vishnu, and goddesses such as Durga. These deities were worshipped through bhakti, an idea that became very popular at that time. Bhakti is generally understood as a person's devotion to his or her chosen deity. Anybody, whether rich or poor, belonging to that so-called high or low caste, man or woman, could follow the path of bhakti. The idea of bhakti is present in Bhagavad Gita, sacred book of Hindu, which is included in Mahabharata. In this, Lord Krishna, the god, asks Arjuna, his devotee and friends, to abandon all the dharmas and take refuge in him, as only he can set Arjuna free from every evil. This form of the worship gradually spread to different parts of the country. Those who followed the system of the bhakti emphasized devotions and individuals' worship of the god and goddesses rather than the performance of elaborate sacrifices. According to the system of belief, if the devotee worshipped the chosen deity with a pure heart, the deity will appear in the form in which he or she may desire, so the deity could be thought as a human being, lion, tree, or any other form. Once this idea gained acceptance, artists made beautiful images of these deities. Bhakti comes from the Sanskrit term bhaj, meaning to divide or share. They suggest an intimate two-way relationship between deity and devotee. Bhakti is directed towards Bhagavat. which is often translated as God, but also means one who possesses and shares bhaga, literally good fortune or bliss. The devotee known as Bhakta or Bhagavata share his or her chosen deity's bhaga. A poem by Bhakta. Most bhakti literature tells us that riches, learning, and high status do not automatically ensure a close relationship with deity. This is a part of a poem composed in Tamil as Apar, a devotee of Shiva who lived about 1400 years ago. Apar was a well the leper with the rotting limbs, the man who regarded as low as Brahmin, even the scavenger. Even these men, if they are servants of him who shelters the Ganga in his long hair, I worship them. They are gods to me. Because the deities were special, these images of deity were often placed within special homes, palaces that we describe as temples. Bhakti inspired some of the best expressions in the arts, sculpture, poem, and architecture. Hindu. The word Hindu is like the term India, is derived from the river Indus. It was used by Arabs and Iranians to refer to the people who lived in the east of the river and to their culture practices, including religious belief. Elsewhere, about 2000 years ago, Christianity emerged in the West India. Jesus Christ was born in Bethlehem, which was then part of Roman Empire. Christ's teachings were that he was a savior of the world. He also taught people to treat others with love and trust others, just as they themselves wanted to be treated. Here are the few verses from the Bible, the holy book that contained the teaching of Christ. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst of righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Christ's teaching appealed to ordinary people and spread through the West Asia, Africa, and Europe. The first Christian preachers came from West Asia to the west coast of subcontinent within 100 years of Christ's death. The Christians of Kerala, known as Syrian Christians because they probably came from West Asia, are amongst the oldest Christian communities in the world. So friends, here we complete our chapter 9 also. So thank you for watching this video till the end. So now you're going to like, share and subscribe and comment below if you want anything else. Thank